So welcome everybody. My name is Eric Way. I'm responsible for our work with inclusion and diversity in the Schindler Group. And we're super excited today to have this joint webinar with Siemens on one side and Schindler colleagues here in Ebicon to talk about how can we really empower allies to take action, during Pride Month. So in terms of LGBTQI plus inclusion, how can we make a difference? What does it mean to be an ally? So we're super happy to have everyone together today. Hopefully our connections are there. We're still, let's see, how many are we up to now? And 38, so a few more people joining. So good. So I think we can maybe get started here. Our two companies, I think it's really great that we can join up for an event like this. We're really working in areas where it's technical, industrial, with sort of an image of kind of the tough environment, maybe even a little bit macho in the past with some things. So we know these can be particular environments where we need to really work on some inclusion on very specific areas because of that. And so it's two companies that are very determined to make a difference in this world, both internally and, of course, the world that we all navigate in, operate in, where our customers live and work, and where we and our families all are. So all the areas where we can make a difference here. So thank you to everyone for joining. Before we start with our questions to our panelists, we'll just go around and see who we have with us today. So we'll start with Siemens. Eva, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, with pleasure. So my name is Eva Bahnsdorf. I'm originally from Germany, but I live in Switzerland now since 19 years. I have been with Siemens for 10 years, and at the moment I'm leading the Academy and Production Media team in the headquarters in Zug. We are doing technical training, and I have been leading the Women's Network for the past 3 years. So this is something where the diversity part comes in. We started our Siemens Women's Network 12 years ago, so this is quite an establishment at the moment. And I really love and have the passion for driving the diversity topic within Siemens and outside of it as well.
Very cool. Thank you, Eva. And Mark, tell us about yourself.
Yeah, first of all, thank you for the invitation. Real nice that we have the chance to actually speak to you guys. My name is Mark Maurer. I'm Swiss. I live now since, 18 years here in Zurich, together with my partner. I'm also part of the LGBTQI plus community. And I'm with Siemens now since 7 years, 2 years the diversity officer. And besides the LGBTQI plus community or our Pride network that we have within Siemens, we also focus on gender equity, where also the Women's Network of Eva is coming in. Also an employee with special needs and our intercultural community. Yeah, this is more or less the focus areas that we have within Siemens.
Great. Thank you, Mark. So I head over here to Ebicon. And Janine, tell us about yourself. What do you do?
Thank you, Eric.
Who are you?
My name is Janine Graf. I am 40 years old, was born and raised in Switzerland and spent most of my private and professional life in Switzerland. After starting my postgraduate career within Schindler in HR, I switched to operations, where I held various leadership roles, now since 2 years as a branch manager, where I have the honor to lead a team of around 100 people. My connection to the community is that I live in a long-term relationship with a female partner.
Great. Thank you, Janine. Willy, tell us about yourself.
Thank you. My name is Willy Tenisch. I'm 40 years old. I'm married. We have 2 kids, teenies, 14 and 16 years. So this is quite an curious time. I'm with Schindler since 10 years in various roles and positions. And I'm now since 2.5 years FQ Director of Schindler Switzerland. Means we are responsible for quality, safety, environment. And I'm also here because I was leading the Inclusion and Diversity Committee of Schindler Switzerland the last 3 years.
Great. Thank you, Willy. Really appreciate your engagement on the topic as well. Something that could be good for us to do is we did our introductions. We might not always think of when it's important to do that, but it can be good, again, to show. I often say that inclusion is about showing that there's other options that we might not be seeing. And so one thing I can do when I introduce myself, say that the pronoun you can use to talk about me is he. Maybe you can see from my beard, etc., that probably that corresponds to my name and who I am, but we know that that's not always the case. So it can be good to say that. So for the discussion today, you can refer to me as he. Janine, what's your preferred pronoun?
My preferred pronoun is she.
She, okay. Lily? He as well, okay. Mark?
He, him, yes.
Okay. And
I'm
Ava?
she,
Okay.
her. Yeah.
Great. Okay. Thank you for that. Yeah, and then also, we might have some people who are visually impaired. And I've just been really reminded about that myself. And my mother is actually going through a period where she's become blind, having to make that adjustment. So just to say that if you're listening to us today, we have some beautiful rainbow backgrounds with Schindler logo and Siemens logos. And people of various ages that we talked about. I'm probably the oldest here and getting close to 60. Mostly some white shirts and short hair, with Ava being a bit longer hair there, just to have a visual. And all of us from, let's say, ethnically white background as well, which is part of our diversity. That's an element that we should be conscious of when we're speaking. So with now that we've set the scene and try to act a little bit inclusively in bringing people together for the webinar, I would say think about the questions you would have. We're going to be able to open up to the group and the chat as we get through these questions. So let me go over we'll ask this first to Ava, and then I'll come to you, Willie. What does it mean to be an ally, and why is allyship important? I will follow up to that. Ava.
First of all, I think the terminology of ally or allyship for me is something I would never have identified myself until maybe 2 years ago. But I think this is also something, it's personal opinion. I think it's something people call you an ally. Maybe to make that clear also, I'm a straight ally. So I'm also having a daughter, and I never thought that I would be called an ally, but I think this is something other people give to you. And from my side, it's really more connected to actions. So really being there, showing up, speaking up, and being present for certain people. Because actually I experienced it completely different. I grew up with a gay uncle, also actually working for Siemens. And when he outed himself, when I was just born in the 80s, then he actually left with the company to Indonesia to finally live this, but no one in my family spoke about it. So I was confronted with it, but no one ever talked about it. So of course I knew his boyfriend, I knew everything. For me, it was normal, but no one ever spoke about it. And then I realized why, not talking about it is really bad. So that's for me, either you stand for something or you are having a connection with something, and then you're really also taking in the position. For me, this is allyship. It's really more the action and not the passive role of being an allyship. Yeah.
Cool. Very good example. And if you think about your own life, and again, each of us can have challenges based upon our identity or our background. Is there a time when someone was an ally to you, in some way?
Not really, actually. And this is something I also never counted on it. And that's why I probably also wouldn't count myself as an ally. I think, first of all, you have to look for yourself. I never had the experience that someone had to be ally for me, but I prefer speaking up for others. And like Mark said, for me, it was always the smaller groups, the minorities I always supported. And I never thought that I would be such a strong ally for other groups. But through standing up for others, speaking up for others, that's how I became one. But I actually never had anyone speaking up for me. That's maybe why I'm even stronger speaking up for others.
Okay. All right, thank you. And so, Billy, what does allyship mean to you? Why is being an ally important?
It goes in the same direction as Eva already said. For me, it's really important to support and also stand up for these people, because when I go back to my childhood, my grandmother, she was some like an ally for me. She always told to me, we are all human beings, and we are all the same, and we shouldn't make any difference. And this was for me really like a groundbreaking in my life, and that's also the reason why I joined, and I was engaged for the Inclusion and Diversity Committee to lead this for Schindler Switzerland, but also we had other campaigns like hashtag Eye to Eye, which I can show you afterwards as well. It's really important that we meet on equal footing. So to summarize, for me, it's really important to stand up for this, to support them, but also to give them a voice because when you look to Switzerland, it's about 5 to 10% of the people who are in this community. So it's really important that we have allies, that we can support them and stand up for these communities.
Yeah, thank you both. I think you've touched on a point that's very important here, which is about speaking about this subject. As Ava was saying, no one talked about it, And in Schindler, we use something we call the inclusion scale. And at the bottom of the inclusion scale is when we're in denial of differences, or it's a taboo subject, because we don't have recognition of even existing. So I think what you talk about in terms of treating everyone the same, there's normal, that speaking about it, we're breaking that taboo, and then it exists. It's there on the table. So great examples there. So I'll go over maybe to Janine. Can you give us some examples of small actions that have had a big impact in your experience?
Well, there are a few, but let me start with the one that was the most recent one. When I started my last position as a branch manager, I introduced myself saying that I was in a relationship with a woman. And the first day I met a team leader out of the branch, somewhere in the operations in the field. He gave me a feedback saying that he found it very proud that I mentioned that the first day when I presented myself. And his next thought, he said, was, why did I even think about it? Why did I think that was proud? It should be normal. It should not be a topic. And he was ashamed that he had these thoughts. Let me give you my thoughts about his feedback. Nowadays, both statements are true. Somehow it is still kind of bold to do so. In my daily life, I think I have to come out every month somewhere, somehow. But yes, my wish would be that it is something as normal that we would not talk about it anymore, or not need to talk about it anymore.
Yeah, that's really I would say a double-edged sword we see with a lot of things. We talk about it in the company, we sometimes say, why do I need to have a specific focus on gender, if we're all equal? And it's, well, we know that we're not there yet. So what are some things we can do to rebalance the equation? So it's recognizing that difference, but then working towards the day where we don't need, all things will be equal in that situation. So yeah, it's that balance between the two, of recognizing it, but at the same time normalizing. Yeah. So Mark, what's your take on this? Some examples of small actions that might have had a big impact in your experience.
Yeah, I would more call it like in a general way, meaning I think first of all, it's really important to explain allyship, what it is, to include all other employees in the beginning, and why we do this diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives. I think that's really important. And I have like two small things that I have. I mean, actually, current one last weekend was the Zurich Pride, and we could attend with a known truck, and our board, the Siemens management board, showed up. And I got so many positive messages and feedbacks from colleagues out of the LGBTQIA community that they showed up, that they were allies, standing and walking with us the whole march. And that was really, really cool. And there was this, I mean, in the end, it was just a nice gesture that they were there to show that they supported. That's one thing. And the other thing is we also had an LGBTQIA plus workshop where other colleagues, allies, attended at the beginning of this month and just showed interest and support and get to know, hey, what is it all about? How can I be an ally? What can I do? What is it to be an ally? And I think this support gives security I think also for our colleagues in the community, and to show, hey, it's okay to be who you are, and that you are welcomed not only by colleagues of the community, but also from other colleagues and our company culture. I think for me, it's these two things that really made the difference actually in this month.
Yeah, it's true. This is an area where I often discuss with leaders and say, just breaking that taboo, showing up, as we say, is already a strong message. Being willing to talk about it. Many times, we're not used to talking about this subject, right? It's private. So sometimes we'll say gender, ethnicity, etc. And when you're in that etc., from time to time, you'd like to hear it. You'd like to see them present, etc. And those moments can really have a strong impact, even if it might not seem like a big action. So yeah, very important what you mentioned. Yes.
Can I add something there? Because it just comes to my mind, the small action, because actually last year at the Pride, we were a much smaller group. And then other colleagues came to me, it's like, oh, Eva, you are part of this community? I didn't know. And then it's like, what do you mean? It's like, they thought I'm gay. And then it was interesting because then I suddenly, no, I'm just showing up. And then they were even more impressed. It's also, I think this shift of speaking about it or showing up, or also even to be proud and going here now in a very, very, very technical old school environment today here in Karlsruhe with this T-shirt. Some people just label you, and this is also very interesting. By speaking up and confronting them, it doesn't mean that I'm just because I'm wearing some pride symbol that I am, but I'm supporting it. And I think it's important that we speak about it. So that was also a moment last year where, I wasn't aware of this allyship, how important it is, but just by speaking about it, it makes a difference. Yeah.
Example. Yeah. Yeah, we all seem to we want to know who's in what box, right? And make those assumptions. Yeah, that's great to break that out. So good. Well, let's talk a little bit about the organizational impact and challenges, because we're really here together working as individual employees, but we're working to change the organization as well. So I'll ask Mark, especially with your responsibility for Siemens in Switzerland, what strategies can organizations implement to foster a more inclusive and supportive environment for LGBTQIA plus employees?
I think, first of all, it's important for me that they are aligned, as that all the initiatives are aligned with the company goals and your DI strategy. I think that there are not just some initiatives here and there, but it's all like our coming off of one thing. I think that's really important. And also, explain it. Why do we talk even about LGBTQIA+? I think it's a lot of explanation. It's important to talk about it. And it is also important to show how diverse is the company culture. I'm sure it's diverse within Schindler, it's diverse within Siemens, and also show it. A lot of employees who are not part of the community, and I got this question as well quite many times, say like, why do we even talk about it? It's just normal. Maybe for you it's normal, but first of all, there are still a lot of other colleagues who don't think that's normal, or just never had actually any touch points with it. That's the other thing. And also, I think it's important, first of all, to show the point of view of the LGBTQI plus communities by showing personal stories, really sharing these personal stories. Having interviews, text, videos, all communication activities like this, first of all, but also really includes all the employees who are not part of the community. I think that's even more important. It's nice to have like this employee resources group, for example, for the colleagues, but it's even more important to have them on board and to show them, hey, you can be part of it. We can change together the company culture. In the end, it's all about the company culture. And we know when we're going to change the company culture for the better, we also know, and that there are studies, of course, that we feel more belonged, we feel more, belonging to the company in the end, and show in the end also better results and better productivity in the end. That's all. If we can really say, like, if you have like one, if all the employees feel welcomed, it really helps the whole company. And furthermore, I also think show that it's more than just Pride Month. Not only do activities during June or before or right after, do it really through the whole year. Meaning, if it's Q&As with LGBTQIA plus employees, if it's I don't know, trainings for managers or for all employees about LGBTQIA plus, really try to split it out. And I think if you do this, yeah, then the chances are quite high that you really can change your company culture.
Yeah, that alignment is important and that consistency, right? Because it's not about just doing an event. It's about making sustainable change and new habits and something that may be artificial in the beginning as we're learning, but it becomes a very authentic approach as we integrate it and learn and become more aware and know how to act. So, great explanation of how we can make that impact on an institutional level.
Can I add there something? I think, as you said, I think it's also important to not always create new channels or new topics. Try to integrate it in existing channels, in existing activities, initiatives. That helps a lot as well. That it's not on top, that it's just part of the existing one.
May I add something? You have spoken about, Mark, regarding culture. I think this is the topic, and the culture starts at the top. So the CEO, they have to stand behind also the board. That's the reason why inclusion and diversity in Switzerland was always representative in the board. So they really communicated from there. And also what you said, no, not new channel, but also the channel we use normally. So it's also about communication that you that reach everybody. And what we have seen last year when we launched this campaign #I2I, so meet on equal food level, we printed it out. It was like a brochure, but you can hand in the hand, and we rolled it out by giving them to all the people, even in the field people. And just to give this brochure to them, they started to discuss, oh, what's this? Why do you have to speak about this? And then when you ask, do you have some examples in your team in this regard? Yes, we had. Okay, and then really start to speak about this. And this is, I think this is also one important way, not just always digital, but also something physical to give something that they can have in the hand. Because Siemens and Schindler, we are both technology companies. So when they have something in the hand, they can speak about it, and then this will be implemented. So this was our experience in Switzerland over the last years.
Yeah, thank you for that, really. I think it is important to realize what are people's environment, what speaks to them. Is this a group of people that's used to touching, working with their hands, physical environment? Oftentimes, a lot of us work in offices here, and we tend to forget that that's only one part of the picture. We're used to this electronic world, etc. So it's really important to always have that frame of reference in mind and how we're going to reach out to people. So, I'm going to ask you, in allyship, how can we handle situations, maybe there's times when there's a bit of resistance or misunderstanding. It's maybe not always easy to know exactly what to do or what's needed, or what could you say about that?
In my opinion, we shouldn't respond with pressure. This is the wrong way. You should respond with empathy and patience. So, yeah, you have to speak with these people. You have to understand why they are thinking that way. You have to go in dialogue. You have to understand concerns and also their perspective. So, I think when you speak about it, when you can ask why do you think that way, if you also can bring in some real examples from Schindler or wherever, or from private label, when you can bring it in, it can explain from that part, then this resistance will go away. And by the end, this is culture. And by the end, if somebody doesn't accept this culture, then we have to be also clear on this part. So, but in my opinion, it doesn't have to be pressure. It has to be really empathy and patience and to speak with it.
To create that understanding, to understand how, sometimes people say, well, isn't this, why are we talking about this at work? It's private. But then I think, giving some examples to say, well, maybe your health insurance is through your company. Or if someone's going to take an assignment in a different country, there are family things that need to be organized. So you need to be able to freely talk about your specific family situation, or your household situation. So yeah, so helping to create that understanding then is really what it's about. Good. Yeah, so Ava, what you mentioned that this is not just about an event for Pride. So what would you say that allies can do to ensure their support is ongoing and not just this one-time thing, or I put up the background in June, I'm good for the rest of the year. What else can you do?
I mean, generally, I'm really more for the sustainable approach. So I'm really more long-term thinking and connecting and finding your spot. Like what Mark mentioned, for me, this is really about also creating awareness. So wherever you find your spot, I mean, I'm not a fan of labeling a lot, but you also mentioned the boxes, right? So some people don't want to be put in boxes, but still, if you are aware and really create the awareness within the company and creating the culture of speaking up and you can be neutral. We notice that we have so many groups and the offering is there, but people don't want to commit anymore. This has changed a lot. So what I think the people who really want to be an ally, even if it's passive or active, they should just be aware and get the tools how to make an impact or where to put it. I always compare allyship actually with being a fan, maybe for a rock band or pop band. So either you are deciding I'm going to label myself full with AC/DC, or I just look normal, and then once a year I show up and I'm still listening to the music. You cannot judge someone by I don't want to put a label on. And for me, this is really more speaking about it and creating the awareness. So also bringing it up and bringing the consistency. So this is for me something, and also. I actually underestimated also my power by being consistent in the network I am. It shows the impact only like now after 8 years, where we always thought, for example, okay, we will never need that network anymore. That was always the goal. We never need the label of women's network, just as an example, but we are still there. So it is not a one-time thing. It doesn't change, and we can only change if we are consistent and finding a purpose in what we are doing. But I think, there is not one way or one answer for this question. Is that okay, Eric?
No, that's very good. Exactly, I would agree with you. And I think there's this question like, are we going to outgrow these supports, these initiatives we need, and kind of ask, will the unemployment office ever be gone in our countries? Because all of our countries are trying to fight against unemployment, but it's sort of, unemployment offices can reinvent their mission as well about education and training, et cetera. And so I think, Pride is a good example that it's also about celebrating the diversity we have, that we know this enriches us. So it's not just about solving problems, but it's also about having that positive outlook on these differences, that we're all at the same level, but our differences enrich us as well. It's a little bit of a paradox. They don't matter, but they do matter. They do enrich us. Some great discussions.
Maybe you let me add something, Eric, to what Willie and Eva said before about awareness and empathy. Maybe I'd like to give you an example out of my life. A former supervisor once told me that he was invited to a same-sex marriage on a boat, being with his wife the only heterosexual couple there. And he came back after that weekend telling me, Janine, that was the first day I really understood how it must feel for you when you are somewhere at the party or whatever. And the fact that he really put himself into my shoes, seeing it out of my perspective, that was huge to me.
Yeah.
Yeah, to that realization, to say, I'm going to imagine a little bit, and maybe I hadn't thought about it before, and that situation put him there, but then that he decided to go take that little bit of an awkward moment, probably for him, to share with you what he thought. And I think that's a really great example of that.
Yeah, and that's what it's connected to what you said, and what I mentioned is really the awareness and the we need more knowledge out there. The thing is, we are still we all have been programmed in a certain way. And I mean, look at our now, I mean, we are all above or around the 40s minimum. That means we have been our parents have been from the old school, right? So nothing has been talked about, very traditional. And I play also with the biases. I have a lot of biases within me, but I'm aware of it. And if I don't, I still sometimes I catch myself asking, oh, and you have family or do you have kids? Like it's a typical like trigger question within the community, right? Because we talk about it. I have some colleagues that say, I hate this question because, of course, then I'm confronted with everyone assumes I have kids, but this is, I think, a really sensitive topic, which then divides instantly the community. And that's just a simple example, but we are so, we have such a fixed mindset and fixed behavior and certain biases, which we need to, you know, you can only change if you create that certain awareness.
And I think it's important to be more mindful, to bring our employees actually there, that they, I mean, as you said, we all think in boxes, we all have our biases, and everyone has it, and someone who states or says he or she don't, just not true. I think we have to bring it's not only, I think, for the company, it's actually, I think, I would say for the whole society to bring us there, that we think about it, have more self-reflection, and I think that's the thing that where also we as a company can influence our employees, to bring them there to be more respectful, more tolerant, and by talking to each other and bring the bias topic always on the floor. Yeah.
May I add something, Eva? It's not just about the age. When I've spoken about my grandmother, and you know, I grew up in the valleys. It's in the southern part, really very Catholic and very conservative there. But even there, she said everybody's the same. Sorry if he's gay or lesbian, whatever, you're all the same. And she didn't make any difference. For me, that's really it was not usual at that time. I have to say, also in this small village with 100 people, 140 people. But anyway, this was really for me an example. That's the reason why I also like to be ally and to support this. I think it's not just the age; it's also how we are.
Yes, 100% agree.
Right, you know, but of course we go through different societal programmings, and I know that really my husband and I have a house in a small village, and we were surprised that a lot of our closest friends are the older couples, where we might have had stereotypes about what they might think, you know, because of the environment they grew up in. Jean, I think you were telling me also about a bias that popped up in a short little conversation you had.
Absolutely. So it happened to me being part of the community, but anyways, I trapped in. A new onboarded employee of mine joined the company, telling me in the first conversation that she just got married 2 weeks ago, and perfectly well. So I asked her, and what does your husband do for a living? And she was like, my wife, you mean? And then kept on talking, and I was like, how could that happen to myself? It's really tough, and I can imagine it must be even tougher if you're not part of the community. But try to keep it open the way you ask about private life or situations of your employees, your peers, your supervisors, whatever.
Yeah, always imagining the options we don't see. As I said, inclusion is about leaving the door open for the options we don't see or think about. So it's a challenge. That's a challenge. Yeah. So do we have any questions online here?
No, not at the moment.
Not at the moment. Okay, anyone, if you want to, now is the time. If anybody would like to put a question to our panelists. So give a second here. And while we're waiting on that, maybe go back to Janine. Someone who wants to be an ally, but they're not quite sure where to start. You know, they haven't spoken up about this yet. What advice would you give them?
Actually, I would give the same advice as I would give to future leaders. Aim to create a safe space somehow, act as a role model, and stand for a learning culture. Like it should be possible in order to learn to make mistakes, if we want to call it that way. But insecurity in allies mostly starts with, do I say the right thing, or could I bless someone or hurt someone when I say it in this or that way? So just owe it, just try to talk, and then maybe ask, is there a better way I could address this topic to you to show that you're insecure? But this will then for sure be nicely treated by the person asked.
Yeah, when people perceive your good intentions and the willingness to listen, to change, to understand, that makes the difference and helps get through those awkward moments in the beginning. Thank you. We have a question coming in?
Yes, we have a question from Gustavo asking Willy and Eva. What is one simple and powerful lesson that being an ally has taught you as a professional?
Yeah, as a
Simple
professional.
and-
I think I understood it right? To Willy
Oh,
and Eva.
okay.
Sorry, should I answer? Sorry, I only
Yes,
heard my name.
Sorry.
Both of us.
Okay, sorry. Yeah, so from my side, I mean, it's really walking the talk. So it's not about just talking all the time, or, you know, I think this is also out of company perspective. For me, very important. Either I join something in an initiative by really being proactive. So not just talking, but really walking the talk and doing and showing some action. For me, this has created the biggest impact. Plus also staying true to yourself, find something what you like and what you stand for. And it's connected to what I said before. Don't label yourself or don't try to fit in just because maybe others expect it from you. Really try to stay true to yourself. And I think then everything anyway flows and comes naturally, because this has a really strong impact and power for yourself. It's my opinion. Willy, sorry now.
Yeah, no worries. Yeah, for me, it's really this grandmother. It was really a lesson learned in that stage, at that age, in this environment, that she really said, okay, we are all the same and don't make any difference, really. This was really with something, a lesson which I learned and which is burning in me and which I always try to live.
That stays with us for a long time, those lessons, especially from the family and the close ones. Yeah. Okay, no other questions so far? So maybe, let's see, maybe go to Mark and say, how can attendees from this webinar sort of, begin to implement what they've learned today in their own workplaces, in the workplace? What would your suggestion be then for people listening in today?
I mean, everyone can start a movement, an internal movement, I think. I mean, in the end, it really begins with you and with yourself, with your intentions, your motivation. If you say, hey, I want to start an internal movement, I want to start an ally group, I want to start an employee resources group, a community, you have the power. Don't really trust in yourself and gather people, if allies or part of the community, start an internal movement. That's how it started also at Siemens. And I think this motivation and this being convinced of change something for the good, for the company, for your LGBTQIA plus colleagues. I think this motivation, this spark that you need, believe in yourself and start. I think that's really the most important thing, I guess. And all the other things, I mean, in the end, the diversity, equity, inclusion topics, etc., ally guides, etc., they exist already somewhere. In the end, it's really your motivation and your belief that you can change something.
Yeah, that believing it, going into action, and then you're often surprised at the difference we can make. Right?
Yes.
Great advice.
Yeah, there's something I think important is also that you are not afraid to make mistakes. So just do it and do it by your heart. And do it also by examples, what you said. And also with small examples that you start to stand up for these communities. And also when you hear somebody who is discriminating somebody of this community, then you have to stand up. I think all these small actions will help you to be a part of it and to be an ally, to be a good ally and support this community. But don't be afraid to make mistakes. So we are all humans, and all of us makes mistakes, and then you can also support in this way.
Maybe I can add here something out of my perspective. If you do so, as we just said, express your opinion, if you're in a large group, then there's a great chance that someone will be in the room who was not brave enough to stand up for themselves and will be very grateful for what you just did. This person will see how the culture is, and that maybe something offending that was named in the room is not tolerated in this area, and someone fights for you as an ally. But this might have a huge impact.
So you never know exactly what was there. So, Ava, closing advice then.
Yeah, I mean, I actually just want to add to what Janine, I'm really impressed, and I always think this is so important if you have a leadership role and when you're responsible for others, that you really stand up and be a role model. And it doesn't need to be connected to a leadership position, but of course it has such a stronger impact by standing up. Because of course we know the higher you are, the more lonely you are. So you will not get as much support and more people talk against you. But it's also standing up, like Janine said, it's really being your own role model. You want to be treated a certain way, then try to treat others a certain way. And when you have a certain thought, I mean, it's never wrong to speak up. And maybe last comment, because I always also sometimes trap in it, is really don't judge a book by its cover. Because sometimes you just, I think especially now with the Pride, you see everything is so colorful. Doesn't say that, you know, just because you're labeled or because you look a certain way, you're belonging to a certain group. So this is really never judge a book by its cover. I think there's always so much more behind the facade. So I think that's, from my side, very important to remember.
Very true. So wonderful. Well, thank you. Sorry.
Yes, there's one more question from
Okay.
Vinci. What can LGBTQIA plus individuals do themselves to advocate for greater inclusion? And if legally all things are equal, is there any need to do more?
They're not there. Mark and Janine, would you like to reply to that one? Or?
I think it's and first of all, it's also for all the LGBTQI plus employees or individuals important to be open as well. I think that's really important, and be as also Eva said, a role model, and try to explain. Never get bored of explaining. I think that's really important, and even if all the things would be legally equal, unfortunately, especially nowadays, there are still people who are against it, and the ways and we're unfortunately by far not yet done with the topic. We have to educate, we have to speak about it, and my opinion and my experience also shows that talking with people who are hesitant or reluctant against it, talking really helps to show them how it is to be an LGBTQI plus individual, and how they can also change it, and how it's, to really talk about it is actually, first of all, the most important thing.
May I add there something regarding this legally? Yeah, legally, everything is clear also in Schindler, if our policy, etc. But it's like in life, if there's no judgment, then this legally paper is nothing worth. So this also, once again, that we have to stand up for this when we have any discrimination, that we stand up and say this is not okay.
The attitudes go beyond the legal phrase.
Yeah.
So.
Maybe again, adding a personal situation. About 15 years ago, I had an internship in South America. And legally, they were way ahead compared to Switzerland, where we have same-sex marriage only for 2 years legalized now. But culturally, it felt almost the same. Like legally, they were way ahead. Culturally, I felt the same as I did back home. So culture, for once, eats legal for breakfast.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Again, it goes back to the feeling, the comfort, etc. The law can help, that gets us there, but it's not all the way. There's still more to do. Very good.
I think there's another
one
question,
additional-
but yeah.
Yes, there's one question from Christian. How could we have an inclusive culture for our field employees? Because the office workers are always informed and on a safe environment, but the people in the field are mostly lost?
May I give an answer on this question? Make the reference to our campaign #I2I, that we meet on equal level. We launched this with this physical brochure, and all of the supervisors in the field, they had to bring it in the team meetings and to give all of them this brochure and discuss the content of this brochure. Also with question, what I told you before, have you ever seen such a situation? Have you ever seen this? Do you understand this? And I think by speaking about this, by giving this physical brochure to the people in the field, then this can be a starting point. But it's always difficult. It's what Christian said. In the office, you have always internet and all this stuff, but in the field, they don't have it. They work. But anyway, this is what we have done in Switzerland, and I received quite a lot of feedback also from people that they got this brochure, that they are aware of it, and that they have spoken about this. So this was starting point in Switzerland, but we are not there by the end, and so we have to do always and once again, and to refresh it as well.
I totally agree. Being part of the operations within Schindler, most of the time it's insecurity in field employees, in their leaders, how to react when they hear something inappropriate, how should they treat that. And what we did in our branch was just focusing on the training of the leaders, how to react in these situations and stand up and speak up in situations where it gets tricky.
I had also an example. I was with one of these meetings. I could join it, and then the supervisor have given them this brochure, and there have been some people in which didn't speak German. They spoken Italian. Then he gave them also to the German version, to the Italian. Then the guy said, well, I don't really speak good German, so take it or leave it like this. And say, okay, this is not really the way to go. We have also Italian version. So these were really these small pieces, small stuff what you've seen. And then they started to speak about it. And this team meeting was really cool. We wanted to speak about 15, 20 minutes. By the end, we spoke 1 hour about all this inclusion, diversity, and discrimination, etc., etc. Just by an example, he did. We had a very great discussion.
Yeah, so all the different elements are linked, and it's about that inclusive mindset that then we apply to the different topics, be it sexual orientation, gender identity, and just even being able to understand the information based upon the language where we're given information. So we have another question. Maybe I'll go over to Mark. It says, are there, if we have situations, are there signs, it says in our companies, where people who have maybe not had a perfect CV because maybe they've experienced discrimination or bullying due to their sexual orientation, is there any kind of special thing in the recruitment process, et cetera, for people that have had that type of an experience?
I mean, yeah, when it comes to the recruitment, we never, as far as I know, we never had any discrimination when it comes to recruitment process, like in general. But I'm pretty sure there is bias, definitely. We're training our recruitment colleagues, recruiting colleagues regarding diversity, equity, and inclusion. But in the end, also, to speak frankly, the line manager in the end has the last word, and we also train our managers. But in the end, we cannot guarantee that there is no hidden discrimination. I'm pretty sure there is no open discrimination because we're really strict when it comes to discrimination within Siemens. But I'm pretty sure there is, and I think, as we said, bias, there is some hidden discrimination still, unfortunately. What we can say is within Siemens, we are really against discrimination, if it's homophobic, transphobic, against gender, etc. There we have a no tolerance rule in place. But to really avoid all discrimination, hidden discrimination, I would say there's still a long way to go.
Can I maybe add something? Because I think the question is also when you don't have a perfect CV. I think the definition is what is perfect, and then You know, is it about having gaps, or is it about maybe the length of a stay? You know, this is something because I'm in a hiring process at the moment, and what I can tell you is then either you look at some prerequisites, what the person needs to have, and no matter how long the person has, for example, been in the company before, or if there has been a gap, I just know that's also connected to what Mark said. And from our talent acquisition, then they tell me, okay, it has a perfect profile, but maybe was in the companies maybe only very short times. And then you can, you know, we just talk, and then we ask directly that the people get the chance to explain. And I think this is important, maybe connected to the question, because I find it difficult when someone have a perfect CV. Is that connected to gaps, or usually length of stay, because maybe they haven't felt comfortable in the company, right? So they left early.
I think actually to add there something, I think in the end, it depends on the recruiting process or the line manager in the end. What is he or she looking for? Is it like, okay, I want just to have a perfect CV, maybe like I have already 3 other persons in my team? Or do I really want someone who has not a like super aligned career, and I'm looking to bring in a new talent, like with a diverse mindset, to change it, to shake up the whole team. I think that's really important as well. And there we have to bring our managers, and I'm pretty sure in all the companies, to not also just employ the minimes, as I like to say, from the boss. So, but really having a more diverse team and more diverse, employees in the end. I think that's the thing where we should bring our recruitment, but also line manager to have in the end more diverse teams.
And don't rely on the CV only. We need to have the motivation letter in. And there, if the more open you are, either the door is opening or not. And then if it's not opening, I think it's not the right place anyway. Well, that's my opinion.
We saw also in Switzerland that we say, okay, we just give the CV to supervisor without a name, without a picture. So when you take this out, then some of these bias are already gone. This could be also an option what we could think about.
Yeah, I know there's different ways that we're talking about, Mark, to look at where we still have, this is a lot of the work companies are doing to see where can we find ways to work out the bias, and kind of getting back to the core of this question around, you know, someone who's maybe not had the performance, not because they're not able, but because of bullying, or, you know, due to their sexual orientation or their gender identity. And of course, it's very hard for us in our systems today, and just the data that we have around people to be able to find that directly. But there is something we work with talent management where we talk about this notion of diamonds in the rough. It's someone who seems to have a potential, but maybe the performance hasn't been there. And those are opportunities to really look and say, has this person been in the wrong environment? Is this why we're not seeing the performance we saw? So it's important for us to remember that and to question that. There's the environment the person's in, as well as their abilities and their training. And we can see people really flourish when they get into that more healthy, supportive, and inclusive environment. Very good. So I think we're coming close to the end here. So I want to thank everybody for joining today. Wishing everyone a very happy Pride. And again, we're super happy to be able to cooperate, to partner with Siemens on this, where again, we're fighting in the same direction for the same goals here. And I think we've got some things to digest. Everybody can take away a few things to put into action here. So with that, also a big thank you to Wincy and Sonia, who have just put this together today on the technical side of the organization, and wishing everyone a happy Pride.
Happy Pride.
Happy Pride.
Thank you.
Bye, guys.
Take care.
Bye.